Fantastic. So there we go. We are recording. Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha Armstrong, and I am the Thermomix Wonder Woman. This is the first time I'm recording one of my new Owner Masterclasses, actually. So hopefully I will have the courage to upload it. If you're watching this back on my YouTube channel or I have sent it to you, I clearly have the courage to upload it. I do have some people watching live. So if you hear me refer to them, I'm just answering their questions and helping them out. The idea of these is I don't cook. It's really about kind of teaching you a little bit more about the machines, which is why you've got me and then you've got my trusted Wonder Woman over here. So one of the things I say to a lot of people when they first get their Thermomix is to use it and then come and watch one of these, contact me for any questions and things like that. And then the next thing I ask when I do one of these new Owner Masterclasses is how many people have actually looked at their Simple Ideas book? Because lots of people don't. Lots of people don't open it. Or they open it and just have a look at the first few pages, which is great. The book is brilliant. It kind of talks you through the Thermomix, how it works, a little bit about its differences in the way that you cook with it. It also talks to you about the terminology, about all of the pieces of equipment that come with your Thermomix. But and it's also then got recipes. But the thing that most people miss is at the very back of the book, and I'm just going to see where it is. I think it starts on page 225, is what I call the cheat sheet. So when people start using their Thermomix, but then want to start doing some of their own things with it and don't really know how, that cheat sheet at the back tells you. So you've got chopping functions, for argument's sake. If you wanted to chop up some cabbage to make a coleslaw, which follows your own recipe, make sure that doesn't shut down. It'll tell you if you've got 200 to 400 grams of cabbage, cut them into pieces, chop it for 6 to 8 seconds at speed 5. Equally, it will tell you the same if you want to grate some chocolate, if you want to grate some cheese. It'll tell you your chopping, crushing and mincing. So if you want to mince some of your own meat, if you just want to chop up some of your own vegetables. It will also tell you grinding and milling, so your own spices and all those kinds of things. And one of the great things is the steaming thing. The steaming functions that are here. So the Thermomix can also be your 3-tier steamer. It can replace that you already have in the house. But when you're not sure what temperature, what speed, how long, how much water should I put in, it's like a really good Bible. So I keep this in the house. I keep it nearby in the kitchen, obviously in the house. So it's just a really good book to sit down with a cup of tea and have a look at. So that's one of the first things I talk about. So for the people who are watching, give me a thumbs up or tell me if you actually even looked at your book. Dave, I see you.
A bit.
A bit is better than not at all.
About 4 pages.
You got in 4 pages. Well, it's definitely worth it. Pour yourself a drink and sit down and have a quick look at it because it's a very, very good book. So I kind of start with that. And then the next thing I want to talk to you all about are your settings on your Thermomix. You turn your Thermomix on. That's the screen that you have. Everyone who's been using it knows that first one is time. That second one is temperature. And the third one is speed. I will make sure I don't have anything inside before I actually start those blades turning. And a lot of people will, over here, you've got your 3 lines. If you press them, we'll open that, go into their My Week in order to start cooking some of the things that they've already programmed for today, or they'll use it to have a look at some of the recipes that they've saved. I'm going to go into the settings because I think the settings are really important. So if I just press settings and you have a look at what's there. Heidi, yours won't say United Kingdom. Yours will likely say Canada or Canada and the US. I'm not sure. Heidi is one of my friends from home who's just recently got her machine. It will also tell you, if you scroll down, go into sounds. When you get your Thermomix, everyone has the same standard sound. And it is set to go off continuously until you touch the machine. Now, for some people who are working from home, that's a little bit irritating. So you can change that and you can make it. You can control the volume. You can even change the melody. If you have a look down here, there's something that says melody. And there's different sounds. I'm so used to the standard sound. If I changed it, I wouldn't know what it was. So I leave that. You can change the duration. I've got mine set to 30 seconds. You can set it. It has to have some sound for some time. So the minimum is 10 seconds. And then you can go up and 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minute, or unlimited. So mine's 30 seconds. I think my other machine might be a minute. You can also change the volume. So again, if you're working from home and you don't want it to be loud, or you don't want it to disturb anyone that's home, you can change the volume on that. And I think that's quite an important thing. You can also change the volume of the button. So, you know, when you press your next button and you get that click, for some people, they want that click to be louder. So they definitely know it's registered with the sound. And sometimes if you press it twice and it isn't loud enough, you miss it. But if you've pressed it twice, you'll hear the 2 clicks and you know you've missed a step. So that's another top tip that I cover when I go through the settings. Display, that's just your brightness. So you can have it very low as I do, or you can have it very high. I take a lot of photos when I make food so that I can upload it into my Facebook group and onto my Instagram page. So for me, I don't want it too bright because it's just too much of a glare whenever I take my photos, but you can change that as well. What else do we have in settings? That's important. Transportation mode. Transportation mode is really important if you're planning on going anywhere with your Thermomix. So I've got a few owners that have caravans, that take it camping. We're going away next week. Mine's coming with me. And that even live on boats. But anytime you are traveling with your Thermomix, the best way to do that is to plug your bowl in, go into these settings and open transportation mode. And it says on there, this mode locks the bowl in place so that the Thermomix can be easily transported. After activating the mode, you'll be asked to shut down your Thermomix. It's going to deactivate the scales, which will also protect the machine. Press and hold the big button to turn your machine off. And then as soon as you plug it back in wherever you go, it instantly deactivates that transportation mode for you. But it will lock that bowl in place. I'm not going to activate it because I don't want to have to shut my machine down. And it's a great way of traveling with it. I would also recommend, if you are planning on traveling with it, having one of the Thermomix travel bags. It's the same bag that we use as advisors. It's like a kind of square padded bag. It's got holes in the bottom for your feet because you just don't want to damage the scales. It's got a section and a compartment in the back to put your aroma dish and all of your accessories. So that's kind of what I would cover with transportation mode. System of measurement is another one. You don't need it very often. If you're following a recipe in Thermomix and it happens to be a US recipe, because where we are, we're using grams, where Heidi is, it will be ounces. So for her, it'll be opposite. However, when you're following a recipe from somewhere else on Cookie Do, if it is a US recipe, it will automatically change and then change it back. If you want to follow your own recipe, or if you found a recipe online, because lots of recipes that you don't find in Thermomix, if you go into a web browser, dog biscuits, there's no recipe for dog biscuits on Cookie Do. But if you type in dog biscuits Thermomix in a web browser, you're going to get a whole load of options, recipes that other people have made. So if you want to follow them, and for argument's sake, one of them would be using imperial, using ounces, you could go into your system of measurement and change that. And that pretty much from your settings is what I cover. I think those are important. And for a lot of people who've been using their Thermomix, Elaine, if you didn't know that you could change it from, that continuous, then it's quite a useful piece of info. I'm going to slide across now, and I want to talk to you about some of these functions. I know when you had Thermomix demonstrations, you would have heard a little bit about them. So some of this I might be repeating, but equally for my customers who are watching back, it's good to have a little bit more knowledge about what these are, and again, how you find them. So when you turn it on, you're on that screen. There's 3 dots at the bottom, which is going to tell you there are 3 pages. It just depends which way you swipe to find what you're looking for. So if I go that way, that opens up Cookie Do. So I'm going to go back to those functions. Some of mine might be in a different order than yours. You can rearrange them. So the functions that I use the least are typically at the bottom if I've done it on this one, and the ones I use the most are up at the top. So you have your scales. So if you just press your scales, it will open up your scale. She says her fingers aren't working. Open up your scales. You can use your scales independently while you're cooking as well. And if I forget to come back to that, I would love it if one of you could remind me, because I think that's an important function when people are cooking, to be able to see that. So that's how you open up your scales. Your dough, I don't often use the dough function independently. I have one recipe for some sourdough bread that a friend of mine, who's also a Thermomix advisor, her name's Lindsay Sadler, she's great to follow as well. and she sent me a recipe for some sourdough bread. So during lockdown, I was using her bread. So that way I was independently using that dough function. When I'm making bread following a cookie dough recipe, it does it automatically. Turbo function, I am definitely going to talk about. So turbo, for those of you that have been using your machine, you know, sometimes when you're making something, Dave, when you made your cheesecake, it might have happened then, where you're looking inside the bowl when you've taken out as much as you can and you know there's more in there. You're like, I know there's loads more in there and I can't get it out. That's when I use turbo mode. It's actually used because it's just super fast. It only goes for a second or two. So when you're, you know, crushing down some nuts or even sometimes coffee beans and things like that, some people use turbo for that. I've never used turbo for anything independently other than when everything is stuck inside the bowl and I know there's more in there. My son hates it because it means there's less cake batter and icing and things that he would usually lick the bowl with. So I get out as much as I can. If I take my bowl off there and I grab my spatula and I've kind of pushed everything down into the bottom and I've swept it all moving in a clockwise direction so that I'm pushing my spatula against the dull side of the blade, but there's stuff under the blade. That's when I use turbo mode. Get out as much as you can, pop your bowl back on, make sure your lid is on. And if you press that turbo, it instantly locks that bowl in place. And then if you press that, you can see you've either got 5 seconds, 1 second, or 2 seconds. That's all you can do turbo with at any point. You can pulse it, but it will only ever be for half a second, or 2 seconds at a time. So if I, for argument's sake, put it on for a second and I then highlight that, that's my power button. It's turn the dial and I'm going to spin. So I turn the dial and for 1 second, it's going to spin super fast and it's going to fling as much as it can into the side of the bowl. Just means then that I can scrape out some more. So when I make hummus and things like that, when there's bits stuck on, it works really well for that. The tip that I'm going to give you when you are using the turbo mode independently, I don't know how much you can see from there, but you know the arms that lock the lid in place, they typically release when you're in the midst of a recipe. If you're on turbo mode, they don't. My bowl is stuck on there. It isn't coming off. I can pull, I can, you know, press, I can do whatever. I have to press, there's a little house button just there on the screen. If I press the house, that's how you release it from turbo. So if you ever find yourself in a position where that bowl is stuck and it's not coming off, it might be that somehow you're in turbo mode and you just need to press that little house to release it. So that's turbo mode. Pre-clean. Does everybody use pre-clean yet? Best function ever, isn't it? Like, does that not make your life easier? So with the pre-clean, what you would do is I typically get out what I can. I give the bowl a rinse just to get rid of some of the bigger pieces and some of the stuff that's stuck on the side. And then you fill your bowl just to the top of the blade, that kind of top of the blade bit there, that nobule bit, with water. Add a dash of fairy liquid, pop it on. If you've done dough, universal is what I tend to use most often. You know, it depends on what I've made. If it doesn't fall into the dough, burnt on the bottom, or the fat caramel category, it's universal. Or the fats and caramels, if I've done anything really sticky, then I would use those. Set it off. And what it's going to do is intelligently work out how dirty am I? How long do I need to clean for? How hot do I have to get? And it'll mix up inside that bowl and it'll really start to clean it. Pour it down the drain, give it a rinse. A lot of the times you're good to go and you can carry on using it. There are some things, like if I've made a risotto, the likelihood is it's still going to need to go into my dishwasher, but it certainly helps keep it clean. The only time that you don't use fairy liquid, and this is really important, is when you have things that are burnt onto the bottom. Make sure that you use white vinegar. It's about 50 grams of white vinegar. I'm not going to lie, it doesn't magically dissolve all the burnt on stuff on the bottom. You're not going to magically open your lid and go, yeah, you don't have to do anything, because you still do. But if you use fairy liquid on the burning setting, what might happen is the way that it heats and the way that it moves around the water inside is it could create so many suds that the suds might come out and come over. So you don't want that to happen. The vinegar is the best thing on that browning function. Pour it away. I sometimes then actually take the blade out. So if that twists off and then the blade comes out, And then I can get a scouring pad, a Brillo pad, or the, the rough side of a sponge, and I can get in there and I can get it off. And it's really, really, it's much easier if you've done that browning clean. Pour it away and kind of grab it at that point. Just be mindful your bowl will still be a little bit warm. Questions? Is that all okay? Excellent. Perfect. Thank you. So that's the pre-clean. Now, a little hint for the cleaning of your Thermomix. If you've just done something like a smoothie, or something that your bowl's not that dirty, lemonade, or I don't know, anything like that, where you just think my bowl really isn't dirty, it just needs a quick clean, then I have a tip that somebody told me, and it is remember all the sixes. So it's not preset, you set your machine, you set that for 60 seconds, so a minute. I'm remembering all the sixes incorrectly there. So 1 minute, and then you set it at 60 degrees and you put it on speed 6. So again, your water, dash of fairy liquid, and then remember all the sixes. It's a very quick 1 minute clean. So when I make my smoothie in the morning, it does not need an 8-minute pre-clean. A 1 minute, 60 seconds, 60 degrees, speed 6, rinse it away, and it's good to carry on for the rest of the day. So that's a very, just a tip for a quick clean.
Tash, do you always put cold water in to clean it, or can you put the water in hot?
You can put it in hot, you can put it in cold. It takes forever for me to get hot water out of my tap. If I have hot water, I'll probably use hot because it just gets more of it out. But 9 times out of 10, I would say my water's cold. So okay. Yeah, that's fine because it'll heat it anyway. The other tip that I have for cleaning, and I don't know, Elaine, you've had yours for long enough that it might be something that you might think about doing. Most of my bowls are all clean right now, but every now and again, I'll look inside my bowl and it just won't look shiny. It'll look almost cloudy. If I've made lemon curd, that tends to give it a bit of a cloudy look inside. I know it's clean, but it's just not shiny. It doesn't have that lovely kind of stainless steel shine to it. If you Google lemon and eggshell wash Thermomix, that's the clean that I use whenever my bowls are just looking a little bit tired, whenever I think they just need a fresh pick me up. And I never remember, I know it's eggshells. Whenever I know I need to do it, I keep some of my eggshells back, and it's, lemons. If I've made lemonade, or if I've needed the zest of a lemon, but not use the lemon, or vice versa, you can do that. You can use an almost dead lemon. And at a push, you can even just use lemon juice. So it's eggshells, water, lemon, and it whizzes it up for, I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say about 30 seconds. Add a little bit of water. And then I think for 30 minutes, it cooks at 50 degrees. Definitely don't pour that down your drain. I don't want to be responsible for clogging up your drains. And it's pretty grim, but your bowl comes out and it looks brand new every time. So there's other people who I know have used dishwasher tabs. Some people have used bicarb of soda. There are all sorts of different things. If you kind of just Google deep clean Thermomix bowl, I'm sure you'll get stuff. My go-to is always the lemon and eggshell one. It's never failed me. So I haven't tried any of the other ones, if I'm honest. So that's kind of what I want to talk to you about a pre-clean. Your blend does what it says on the tin. That's what I use for my smoothie in the morning. Throw everything in, hit the blend. It starts at 30 seconds. You can change the time. And I think it starts at speed 6 and it goes up to speed 8. So that works really well. If I've got frozen stuff in there, I'll definitely be up at speed 8. If I've not got frozen stuff, I'm good at speed 6 or 7. What else do we have? Egg boiler. Have you guys used the egg boiler mode yet for those that are watching? I'm getting.
I made like a chicken and bacon pasta salad yesterday, and that had eggs on it, but the eggs went in the varoma.
Did they? Yeah.
Yeah, with the chicken. So the chicken went in on top, then it was the eggs, and then the pasta went in the bowl.
In the bowl.
So I haven't used the egg boiler just to boil eggs.
Oh, you need to, if you like a dippy egg, it is absolutely a game changer. It was a relatively new function that came on last year. And most people who like a dippy egg have said it is okay. Yeah, most of us you can boil an egg. I had to have one of those little like red things that look like an egg that I would sit in the water and it would change color, and I'd have to grab it right when it got to that kind of soft, because I like it medium soft. And then get it under the running water. And you do still have to grab it and put it under running water whenever it tells you it's done. You get it off the heat. But it is so good for using it for dippy eggs. It's the only function that the blades don't turn. So don't panic when it tells you to put your eggs in and add your water. It's just amazing. It does say to have your eggs from the fridge, because in North America, we tend to have our eggs in the fridge. I don't have my eggs in the fridge and I haven't had any issues with it. Kettle mode, if you're using it as a kettle, just make sure that it's water only. And you can put that in and you can set the temperature. So there are some times when you make certain teas and things that you don't want it at 100 degrees, they're better at 80 degrees. Hot chocolate, if you've got little ones and you don't want it, again, that's quite hot at 100 degrees, so you can set how you want it. It is one of the most energy efficient ways of boiling water. Using your kettle actually uses more energy than using the Thermomix. So if you're energy conscious at the moment with the cost of living and everything else, use the kettle mode on your Thermomix. Warm up function. I'm definitely going to talk to you about the warm up function, because it's an underused function on the Thermomix, in my opinion. If you've got something with a liquid content, so it needs to be a curry, a soup, a stew, or something that has a liquid content to it, pop it back in your bowl. I always use the whisk when I do warm up function. I do that for a couple of reasons. It only goes up to a maximum of speed 2. So if your bowl is full, it doesn't have the draw with just those blades to get the liquid or the food content that's up here. Whereas if you've got your whisk in, it does. It mixes it all up, but it also stops your food from getting any more chopped. If you've got vegetables and meat and things in there, it just stirs it. Now, when you're using the whisk, it sits, again, just on the top of the blade. There's like a hole in the bottom of it, sits on top. And when you put it on, you can see it's got a little bit of a turn. So I pop it on and then turn it a little bit clockwise, and it just locks it. I'm going to use the term lock very lightly. If I really pull at it, it's going to come off, but you'll notice there's just that little bit of resistance. So anytime you put it on, give it a tiny little turn clockwise, and that will lock it into place. While I'm talking about the whisk, never go above speed 4. If you're following a cookie dough recipe, cookie dough is never going to tell you to do anything that you shouldn't do. But for me, if I'm using the whisk, Christmas time, I just want to make up some whipped cream. I used to use the double beater. It used to take a couple of minutes. It's about 45 seconds with Thermomix. Just never go above speed 4. If you go above speed 4, the likelihood is it comes off of that little base thing that it hooks into, and it will likely get eaten. And I always tell this story, and I'm sure if she ever watches this back, she'll be there laughing in the background. But my friend who was making, again, I'm not sure if it was a meringue or a marshmallow type thing, decided she was going to go up to speed 9 because she just wanted to whip it all up quite quickly. It destroyed this, but it then also came flying out of the top of her bowl, and she has to redecorate her ceiling. I've had somebody else who was making a cocktail and was whisking egg whites for one of her cocktails, and she did it way past speed 4. And also she ended up with bits of plastic in hers. So I tell these stories so that they're a little bit memorable and people remember never above speed 4 with your whisk. They are replaceable. I want to say it's about 8 pounds if you happen to break it and you need another one. But we don't want that to happen, which is why I mention it. That's the warm up function. Thicken mode does what it says on the tin. It's great for all of your sauces, your béarnaise, hollandaise, your custards, creme patisseries, all those kinds of things, gravies. I don't often use it independently. I tend to be following a recipe. But from what I hear people say, if you've got a sauce that hasn't thickened very well, stick on thicken mode, even drop in maybe a little bit of cornstarch or something like that, and it just works magic. But that's the thicken mode. What else do we have? The rice cooker mode. Now with the rice cooker mode, when you press it, it literally just wants you to put your rice and your water in and press go. But I never remember how much rice or how much water I'm supposed to put in. So I do always in my app, I make basmati rice. So I'll open up my app and I typically will type in, and I'll show you this when I share my screen in a minute, basmati rice, and I'll get a recipe for the basmati rice. I'll find one of the ones that uses the rice cooker mode. there is a way in the app to look for collections. So there we go. That's a collection that uses the rice cooker mode. And if I open that up and then look at it, at the very bottom of the recipe, it actually tells me if it's for 2 portions, how much rice, how much water. If it's for 4 portions, how much rice, how much water. Pop that in, hit go, and the machine will magically work out what it needs to do to cook your rice perfectly. The other way of doing rice is using the steamed rice recipe. And again, if you just go into Cookie Do and type in steamed rice, lots of people swear by that. So try both methods, see what you prefer and what works better for you. I would typically make basmati rice and I do it this way, but I'm never making masses of it. And I'm usually doing 2 or 4 portions. But my advice would be try both ways, the steamed rice method and the rice cooker way, and see what you prefer. Fermentation mode. I'm going to very quickly talk to you about fermentation mode. Fermentation mode is to make your own yogurt. That's what it's been designed for. So if you actually press it, it's going to tell you, there's a box that comes up and it says you can ferment certain foods, obviously more than yogurts. For me, it's always been yogurts. Set the time for 12 hours ahead and it's got the temperature. I will always follow a yogurt recipe. There are so many to choose from. I would recommend making them overnight because it uses your Thermomix for a good 10 to 12 hours. So if you make it during the day, it means you don't have access to your Thermomix. So I tend to start my yogurt about an hour before bed. Put your ingredients in, it heats it all up. It then wants you to cool it down. So it goes into the fridge. I need to get back here because I want to show you something. Let's go back home. It goes into the fridge. It does take about an hour for it to come down. I think it has to be, I can't remember if it's 45 or 50 degrees off the top of my head. So I put it in the fridge. And then I remember the first time I made it, I thought I have no idea what temperature it is inside. But actually, if you pop your bowl back on here, your middle one where it has temperature, if I had been cooking, it would at the bottom have the temperature that I've set it to cook to. And there would be a number on the top, which is the temperature that it is. So you can pull that bowl out of the fridge, pop it on here, and it will tell you on the top of that what temperature inside the bowl is. So that's a great way of knowing when you're when the contents are at the temperature that you need it to be at. And then you carry on making it and go to bed and then it's ready for you in the morning. So the other time that I use fermentation mode is in the winter when I don't have a nice warm place to prove my bread. And what I'll tend to do, sometimes I can leave it in here. So if I'm making a bigger batch of bread, I'll just put a little bit of oil inside this. I'll put the dough directly in here. I'll put, I don't know, maybe 300-400 grams of water inside. And then what I'll do is set this. Sorry about the dog. He's doing that because he wants more treats, isn't he? I'll set it for 1 hour at about 50 degrees. Let me give him another treat so he stops. Come on then. We're going to get into a new habit here, aren't we? There. Thank you. Dog's happy. So for 1 hour at 50 degrees and just set it to go. Make sure you've got your lid on and it just creates the right amount of humidity and heat and it proves your bread. It takes about an hour to do it and it's brilliant. And like I say, in the winter, I cannot find a great place to prove my bread. So that's my trick is the fermentation mode. Slow cooker. I would do most of the time, again, I'm following a recipe, but if you're just throwing your things in at the point that you're ready for it to slow cook, make sure that you've got a blade cover. So there's 2 blade covers. I don't know which ones you have. This is the peeling blade cover and this is the standard blade cover. They do the same things, except this one also peels your vegetables. This one does everything this does, but it doesn't peel your vegetables. So currently, this is the one I'm saying to everybody. If you want a blade cover, get the one that's going to peel the vegetables. And it just sits on top of the blades and kind of have to wiggle it on and you'll know when there you go. And it sits inside like that. The blades can still turn underneath and it will turn, but it's not going to chop your food. So if you're cooking and you've got vegetables in there on a slow cooker for hours, you don't want it to be baby food when you come back. So that's how that was designed. So I definitely would use that. For the slow cooker. What else does it have? Sous vide. Has anyone used that yet? That's the fancy chefy way of cooking in the vacuum sealed bags. There's a recipe for, I think it's rare beef steaks, and I can't remember if it was a béarnaise sauce or a peppercorn sauce. the best. Heidi's very spoiled living in Canada. We get very, very good steaks and lovely restaurants that make great steaks. As a North American who is also a cabin crew and gets to travel around and eat steak pretty much in some amazing places, I've always been disappointed with steaks. There's only a couple of restaurants here in the UK that I will order steak at. The rest of them, I just think, nope, I'm not bothering. And then I found the recipe on Cookie Doo for the sous vide steaks. And my husband went and bought some beautiful steaks from the butcher. And I followed that recipe. I kid you not, it was outstanding. So definitely try that. Definitely try and make that recipe. Again, you do need a blade cover to do it because those blades will be turning and you don't want the blades to pierce the bag that has your food in it. Peeler. Again, you definitely need the peeling blade cover for that. It's going to talk to you through what you do. You put your vegetables in, you put some water in. Doesn't peel it in the traditional way that we're used to with long, lovely peels. It pretty much shaves them. It's going to bounce around. Definitely do not leave your Thermomix. The times that I would say don't leave your Thermomix, the peeling function and the kneading function. Sometimes on a blend or a chop, just for those first few seconds, you'll see that the Thermomix is going to be moving. But on the knead function and the peeling function, it will move. It's a very intelligent machine. It's not yet intelligent enough to know where the edge of your counter is. So my advice for those ones, stay with it. Anytime you're moving your Thermomix, pardon me, anytime you have to move your Thermomix, never drag it. You want to protect the feet. Those are your scales. Always grab it by the handle, and I'm going to move that for a second, and the bottom, and it's a lift to move it. So that's really important. Let's try and get that back so you can see where I was. And I think for functions, I'm pretty much there. There's gaps because we know there's going to be more coming. We just don't know what's next until it comes. Now, while I'm talking about functions and things that are coming, every now and again, when you turn your machine on, there's going to be, it'll say there's an automatic update. Do you want to do it now? If you've not got time to do it then, because you're about to cook dinner, that's fine. Just make sure that you then, if I go back to my 3 lines, and I'm going to go back into my settings, and I'm going to scroll down, and there is something somewhere that says, maybe it's not there, I have to find it. There is something that says check for updates. There we go, Thermomix version and update. If you check that and press search for updates, it's going to look. So if you know that you've had an update and you've not done it, do make sure you go back into the settings and do the update. Sometimes we get very excited and the update is a new function and a new feature and we love it. Mine's all up to date because I did mine yesterday, because there is an update for all machines at the moment. Sometimes it's a back office update and we don't know what it is, but they're changing or they're improving the interface in the background. The update that they've just done, you all should have had an email from Vorwerk. If you haven't had it, let me know because it is a really important email. What they found is that on the very rare occasion that you're cooking, most of the time when we cook, we've got the lid in. When we're cooking at, you know, those high temperatures, 120, anything over 95 degrees. And what they've said is that sometimes those little gaps that are in there can just get a bit clogged and it's causing the steam to not release in the way that it should. And what can happen is the food can then come out through those holes and bubble over. That's a burn hazard. You also don't want to ruin your counters or your Thermomix. So the fix that they have for that is to use this instead. They have updated most of the recipes, but anytime you're cooking now above 95 degrees, instead of having this measuring cup in, pop your simmering basket on top. It still allows the steam to escape. But apparently that's the new thing that we're supposed to be doing. So I don't know enough about it to go into too much detail about the background. Just want to make sure that everyone knows to do that. If you're cooking and this is inside, then you're absolutely fine. If it tells you to put the measuring cup in, to put the measuring cup in. If the simmering basket is not inside and you're cooking above 95 degrees, pop the simmering basket on top, unless it tells you to use your splash guard. So this also comes with the Thermomix. The splash guard is used when you're doing high temperature cooking. So if anybody watching this has an old TM5, you don't have that function with the high temperature cooking. The TM6 is the one that goes up into those high temperatures to do the caramelizing, the sugar stages, the browning of meats. Those are the times where it's going to ask you to put this on top. And by putting that on top, it actually then locks it in place. So that's a safety feature. If you're following a recipe that asks for this, use this. Just don't kind of interchange the two, I would say. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about with the flash guard. While we have this inside, Thermomix spatula. For those of you that don't know, that little hook, magic hook. Where you have the pivot on the lid, there's actually a little hole. So if you take that hook and pop it in the hole, that's how you lift that simmering basket out. So when it's hot, it's fine when it's cold, lemonade and things like that. When it's hot, that's very hard to get out and you don't want to get burned. So that's when you use that little hook. And the little cover that they have on here is designed. So if your blades are turning, that can go in and you can help whatever it is that's inside while the blades are turning. It will not touch the blades. There are lots of recipes that will tell you to do that. It's absolutely safe. Sometimes when I make hummus is the one I keep referring to because I make that so often. And I can tell from the sound that the hummus isn't hitting the blades. So what I'll do is I'll just pop that in and give it a hand and move it around, and it just pushes, it helps get the chickpeas and everything back onto the blades to blend it. So that's perfectly safe. It does sit quite nicely just on top, so it doesn't drip. It also doesn't roll off your counter because it's not round. So that is your spatula. I've covered, I think, all of the equipment pieces while we've been doing this, so that's really good. Where were we? What else did we have that we wanted to talk about? I have a little note sheet so I don't miss anything. Settings, travel bag functions, the update I talked about with the measuring cup and the basket. I'm going to quickly show you some stuff on Cookie Dough. But before I do that, for those of you that are here watching, does anyone have any questions for me? Just check that we're all okay. I think we're good. So if you will just excuse me while I figure out my non-technical Natasha here, trying to figure out how to open Cookie Dough and share it with you. So there's Cookie Dough. Let me log in the background, bring you back, and then, oh, there's something in the chat. Steaming dish. I didn't talk about the steaming dish. Well done. Thank you, Heidi. Trust my friend to know when I've missed something, right? So yes, this is your aroma. You don't need to know the names when you're cooking. There's pictures there, so you always know what you're using. But the dish is the bigger one, and then your tray is this one, which just sits on top. Same principle when you're cooking with a 3-level steamer. If you're using this and the basket, whatever takes the longest to cook would be at the bottom, and whatever takes the shortest amount of time at the top. Always make sure when you're using it that you've left gaps so that these holes, some of them need to be unobstructed because you do need the steam to be able to come out and circulate around them, both on the bottom and on that level. So that's the important thing with this. Your bowl is 2.2 liters, just so you know that. There is a max fill line inside. Just make sure you don't go above that. That's quite important. There's some weights and things, maximum weights when you're making bread. If you guys want that information at any point, just message me or DM me and I can give that to you, because off the top of my head, I can't remember all of the actual facts and figures for the maximum weights when you're doing things like that. But they're quite high. So that it's not something that's ever come up in the 8 years that I've had a Thermomix. Cookie Dough. Here we go. Share screen. Open that. Can you guys see Cookie Dough? Dave, give me a thumbs up because you're who I see. Perfect.
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Thank you. I need to just move this out of the way so I can show you what I'm doing. So a lot of people will open Cookie Dough. Oh, hang on. I've just got the bar that has all of you guys is right where I need to click, and I don't know how to move it. Let's do that. There we go. Accept that. So the Cookie Dough is here. Most people will open Cookie Dough. It looks like this, whether you've done it on your iPad, on your phone, or on, like I have now on a web browser. And most people open this and just type something here because that's why they've opened it, and they hit the search button. I really recommend that every time you go into Cookie Do, scroll, have a look at what else is there, because it's like having your own personalized cooking magazine. These are different to what they were yesterday when I was looking at something. So these are some of the latest recipes that have come on, and they're great to have a look at and see if there's anything there. Ham and cheese puff pinwheels, those sound great. Mac and cheese muffins. So I love looking at all of this stuff and seeing what there is. You can also hit the For You, and then it starts giving you things based on your search function. Clearly, I've been looking at drinks, and I'm actually quite impressed because they're not all alcohol. I've got Thai iced tea, which is non-alcoholic, refreshing hibiscus and lemonade slushy. Heidi, have I just disappointed you?
I'm shocked.
I know, me too. I'm not going to lie. I was a little worried opening that because I have been looking at cocktails. There's an amazing recipe for sangria. Going off on a tangent here. Haven't made it before, and I made it for an owner recently. Oh, I'm obsessed. But it's always really interesting because I always say it is like having your own personalized magazine and lots of articles. And I'm going to go back to featured. So here you go. For those of you who have Cookie Do, it does have learn more about the new software update and that safety feature. Definitely have a read of that and look at it because it is really important. TM6 new modes, created recipes is how you can find your own recipes and store them into the machine. You have to do that from a web browser, but this tells you how to do that. The most cooked recipes, I always find that interesting. So I have definitely contributed to blackberry jam being in one of the most because I made some jams the other day. I always like looking at these and seeing what's there. The dauphinoise potatoes I haven't made yet, and the tomato and chili jam I haven't made. There's a bacon and cranberry jam. That one's very good. Go Green and Feel Good is one of our cookbooks, and that just shows you all about how you can use up leftovers. It's about saving waste. It's unbelievable how much food waste there is. And this is just a way that there's recipes in there for peanut butter peel cookies. And if you've got carrots that have the, the green top on it, it's ways to use that, and using peels of vegetables to make, okay, here they're crisps, at home they're chips. I get that confused. Think about that. And then these are your articles. So this is the newest one, recipes in 30 minutes. If you just click on that, it'll open it up. Again, this for me is how it's full of recipe inspiration. And you find, if you've not made the Asian chopped salad yet, that is hands down one of my favorite salads. And again, it's just really good for finding all of that recipe inspiration. So that there is your Asian chopped salad. So when you have a recipe open, you can either cook it today. And if I hit cook today, that's going to go straight to my machine instantly and be there waiting. I can add that into a collection. And I have lots of collections, as you can see here. But if I scroll all the way to the bottom, I've got one that says salad. I would add it there. It is already added there. So I know that's in there. I think that's even in one of my favorites. I can add that into my week and say, right, I am going to make that on the 31st. And I can save that. So that's now saved in my menu planner for the 31st. But I can also add that into a shopping list. Now, the shopping list function is one of the things I adore about the Thermomix. My husband likes to go to the grocery store. So we all have the app. My son has the app. My husband has the app. My son has his own recipes that he chooses and makes. And for my husband, when he goes to the grocery store, it's all in aisle order. So if I go show the shopping list, everything comes up in aisle order. So there's all of the baking ingredients that we need. I know that I've got sesame seeds. I can tick that off the list. I know I've got peanuts. I can tick that off the list. All of your drinks are together, all of your dairy products. So it's really good if you are in the grocery store, tick, 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 tick. But you can also order your ingredients here in the UK. If you're watching from other countries, I don't know that that feature is available. I know here, certainly in the UK, and I believe even Ireland, you can order your groceries. Press that button, click on one of them. It drops it into your recipe platform. You can swap things, change things, add things, and then you would just at the bottom where it says order ingredients, you can do that. I do need to move this again so I can, there we go. So I can close that because I'm always terrified at this point. I'm going to end up actually ordering ingredients that I don't need. But that's how easy the shopping list is. You can share the shopping list. So if I'm on my phone, I can text it, WhatsApp it, I can copy it into notes. So when I do demonstrations for people, we come up with a menu. That's how I send them their grocery list. You can print it. For some people, they still want a printed list when they're in the grocery store. So it's a really useful function. Within your list, there's a button all the way down at the bottom here. Where is it? There's a plus button. Additional items. Thermomix isn't going to tell you you need your toilet paper or your kitchen cleaner, but you can add that in there. So all of your list is in one place. So I do really think this function alone is such a time saver. And it just makes life easy. Let's go back to Explore. And I'm going to go without typing anything in that search. If you hit the search button, this opens up filters. And if you look at the filters, you have lots of different choices. So if you're looking for a main course, or you're looking for, a pasta and rice dish. In fact, one of the ways that my son and I found one of our favorite pasta dishes was I came home one day. It was one of those, oh my God, I have no time. What am I going to make for dinner moments? And I was like, pasta and rice, I've always got that in the house. So I clicked that. I carried on going down. I wanted something easy, and I wanted it to take less than 15 minutes of my own time. And I think I probably said I wanted it to take, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. I can't remember which one I did. And I then showed those results. So you can see I've got a whole bunch of stuff that comes up. But if you come up here where it says relevance, you can also go total time shortest, which is what I did because it was late and I didn't know what to make. And I had this lovely creamy pea pasta that came up, which I might have put 45 minutes. There it is. There we go. Creamy pea pasta. I thought this was a night where, all right, I have cheese. I may not have had Emmental, but I had cheese. I had onion. I had garlic. I had all of that. I said to my son, I'm not promising him it's going to be the best dinner ever, but it was a dinner. It was done inside 30 minutes. He had the first bite and just said, OMG, Mom, that was so good. So that's now one of our favorites. So it's just another way of using those filters to help you. Again, if you go into your filters, one of the things I like to talk about are you can type in ingredients. If you've got ingredients in your house, type those in. It will give you some ideas of what you can make. You put a minus in front of the ingredient, it will give you recipes that don't have that ingredient. Tags is a good one. I know, Dave, I had a message from Emma earlier, and Emma was looking for, I think, some low calorie meals. One of the ways that you can do that is if I go, because we don't have anything that is low calorie, but if I typed in low fat, then some recipes will show up. Those are using tags that will show up low fat. But the other thing that I wanted to show you using tags, espresso martini is not low fat. I don't see why that, well, I suppose it depends how much sugar's in it. But if I were to go, let me clear my filter because I don't want all of those in there because I want to show you something. Easy, take out low fat. Here where it says recipes, if you click on it, you can actually look at collections. So this would be, let me try and see if something comes up with low fat. Then you get I've got them in a couple of different languages. So you get some collections that have some low fat recipes. The healthy Greek turkey burgers are amazing. I've had them. What else have I had from this one? There's a couple from various different ones, but that's one. The paya sorbet somebody made the other day and said was delicious. There's also, I think if you go low calorie, something comes up low. No, it wasn't low calorie. Let me type in fat again and see. Low fat comes up. There's definitely one that I found that I wanted to show you.
Is it low carb?
Might have been low 500 calorie meals. That was another one that was really good. There's a couple of things in there. So there's just different ways of using the filters to help you and find different things that you can make. Let me go back to Explore. That's in a nutshell, Thermomix or Cookie Dough, not Thermomix. I'm going to stop sharing because one of the other things I wanted to say to you about the Thermomix and certainly the low calorie meals, Dave, tell Emma to Google skinny mixers. They do some really, really good. There's a couple of bloggers and people that I follow. Skinny mixers is good. You can get a whole load of recipes. They do cookbooks that they've created, which are Thermomix recipes. You do have to pay for them, but you can actually get them downloadable. So it's much cheaper to buy the online ones. And I know people that have used them and say they are fantastic. So follow Skinny Mixers. There's another lady, like totally different from Skinny Mixers, because she's called Sophia's Kitchen, but she's the best for baking and meringues and desserts and things. She does lots of other stuff, but her baking is out of this world. So I definitely follow her. I've recently found somebody called Cook, COOI 8 Cookie Kate, I think she is. She's Australian. Most of these are Australian because Thermomix is so huge in Australia. But definitely things, you know, people to follow. And if any of you find anyone that you follow that you think is worth, you know, hey, Tash, you need to check this out, I'd love you to post it in my Facebook group. I've got my Thermomix Wonder Woman by Natasha Armstrong Facebook page. I'd love people to join that, share it with your friends. If you've got any hints or tips, Dave, you posted a recipe the other day. You made a recipe that wasn't even in English and you used the Google Translate. And you did that on day 2.
I know, but you told me about it.
I did, but the fact that you're confident enough on day 2 to do that is huge. But yes, for those, again, watching, if you've been on holiday and you find a recipe and you want to make it and it's in a foreign language, program it, open Google Translate on your phone, and literally you can hold it to that screen on your iPad and it translates it for you, so you know exactly how to do it. So it does makes it incredible, opens up a whole new world of recipes.
I found some good recipes by Googling Ottolenghi Thermomix, but I can't remember who it was.
I'll see if I can find it and put it in the group. But yes, Ottolenghi uses he loves it. And I know he's definitely done some recipes. I think there might even be a couple on Cookie Do. But I'm not sure. There's a couple of chefs that have collaborated with us and actually if you, in your collections, type in chef and you might get some of the chef collections that come up. So that's definitely worthwhile.
Great idea.
Stop recording. I'm going to leave you guys on so we can chat. But pretty much for the recording, for anybody watching back, that was, you know, quite a basic, but I'm hoping covered a lot of info for you about your machine, bit of the do's and don'ts. Again, when you're stirring or when you're doing anything with that machine, make sure that your spatula is moving in a clockwise direction so it's against the blunt side of the blade. Whenever it tells you to scrape things down, I always remove my bowl from the Thermomix. I do it for 2 reasons. I'm a shortstop and I can't see in it very well. But also if I have done onions and chilies, I don't want my face right over it and getting a face full of that. So I do always remove it. I scrape everything down. And the other reason I remove it is because that's the next thing I do to get it all off my spatula. There isn't a rule that says you can't do that on your Thermomix. It's just me, it's a personal preference. I would say that of us advisors, 50% of us do that and 50% don't. My skills are in the base, so I want to protect them as much as I can. Feel free to reach out if you've got any questions for me. For those of you that are on watching live, stay. I'm just going to stop the recording. And for anyone watching back, I appreciate you watching back. If you've got any feedback for me, if I've forgotten anything, feel free, send me a message and let me know. And it's natasha@flyingfoodie.co.uk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tash.
Hi, you guys can stay on. I'm going to just